In our last video, we walked through exactly what a Moodle lesson storyboard was, its relevance, and its basic functionalities. In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to take a document, our learning outcome statement document, and we're going to convert that into a storyboard so that we can start getting ready to build our Moodle lesson activity. So what we have on the left here is our what we call a SARA's document, and SARA stands for the statement, which is your learning outcomes, your assessment, your resources, the activities that will be provided to the learners, and the support that will be provided to the learners. And what we're going to do is take this SARA's document and convert it into a storyboard. So if we go down here, the first thing we're going to do here is this. We're going to look at our main statement, design OER resources for competency-based assessment TVET training. So that becomes the title of our, if we look here, our standard main lesson topic, that becomes our title for the main lesson. Now down here we have different subtopics. We have 1, 2, 3, but as we discussed in the previous video, we could go on, we could 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm just going to put in the 3 just for the brevity of this video, but you'll get the idea of how we're going to go ahead and use this. Where I'm going now for the subtopics is I'm going to go to the resources that we've decided that we want to build. So I want some content on OER. So subtopic number 1 is going to be called OER and Creative Commons. That will be covering all that information. Once the students understand that, they're going to move on to UDL, or Universal Design for Learning Principles. And then from there, we're going to look at some examples of OER in TVET. So we have our 1, 2, 3 here. We have 3 subtopics here. Now you'll notice here that I've got more than that. So obviously I could go on beyond this page into the second, into the third, into the fourth. But again, I'm just going to stick with these 3 pages here. Now looking back up at our template here, we have a knowledge check. So what we're going to do is we're just going to acknowledge that we want to have some sort of knowledge check. For every time that we want check. Now from here you would decide, do you want to have one question or a cluster of questions? In this case, we're just going to go with one question. It's the same principle, it's just you're creating 3 questions that the lesson can pull from. So I'm just going to put down one question. From here, I can either, if I get my answer wrong, go back up to my template here. If I get a wrong answer, I can go to supplementary, or I could have it bounce back up top to here and they can read it through. What I'm going to do for the brevity of this is we're just going to keep it bouncing back up here. So if they get it right, the knowledge check, if they get that correct, they're going to move on to UDL. Then from there, they're going to do a knowledge check. And we're going to say, let's just for fun, just say cluster. And then for examples of TVET, we're going to do a knowledge check. And we're just going to go with 1. So we're starting to build our storyboard. Now we're not building our supplementary here, but let's say, okay, you know what? Actually, when I think about it, I think there's a lot in Universal Design for Learning. Maybe I'm going to provide some text space here. Let's say that I want to provide, if they didn't understand that, there's a great video on it. Video on UDL that you have access to. And then from there, when they do that, we know that we're going to throw in a knowledge check. And we're going to make this one one question. Just so we understand, make sure that they see what's happening here. So you're seeing that the storyboard's filling out quite nicely now. We've got these little checkpoints. We've got some good information in there. However, what we don't have is the actual content that is going to be going into the Moodle lesson. What we're going to do is we're going to acknowledge that now. So we have OER and Creative Commons. This is subtopic number 1. So we're going to go down to scroll through here, and we've got our text. So let's say that I've created a document and it's all about OER basics. Its name, and it is in folder OER and UDL. What I've done there is, and I'm going to just put that down as it's a PDF. I've made reference to where the information is. I don't put the text into this box. There's no way you could fit all that text in the box. So what I did is I made some sort of reference to that. So this would be the subtopic number 1, the resources. Let's say I want to make sure that I've got some good images in there. So images of Creative Commons, licenses, and I just know that I also want to have maybe images image of student in classroom. You're just designing out what you want this thing to look like. And you can go looking for these later. Image of trades worker. And if I have those images, I could say C file images or whatever you name that file. Or if you still need to find these, you could make up a legend for it. And needs work was one that we commonly use for our Sarah document. So that means that we need to add things here. Creative Commons license, I have built that, so I put an R for ready. So now I know that I've got images there. Now for this first subtopic, this is not applicable. Not applicable, don't need it. So because I know that if I go back up to here, to my first one, if I look here, Creative Commons, I know that it's just basically going to be text-based with some images and then knowledge check. There's no video needed. So now I've got the knowledge check, one question. Let's go down to scroll through here, our knowledge check. We got a knowledge check reference here. So let's just say short answer. Let's go true or false. So this is where you could write the question in. CC by license allows for changes to be made to resources. Say as a question. That's the question. The answer to that would be true. So if I look at the question type, it's going to be true or false. And there you have it. We've got our question type. Now we go back up just to double check that. And I've got my OER Creative Commons. I've got my information written in there. I now have a knowledge check. So I can move on to my UDL. So I'm going to go down to here and I'm going to subtopic. I'm going to go to another subtopic page, which is here. And I've got subtopic number 2, and I can create one for UDL. I am going to put reference to a video. So say UDL, it is saved as a doc. So there's a PDF document on UDL in Dropbox, we'll say, or however, any convention that you want to name that. The video, I do want to create a video for my supplementary, so I'll add that in later. And images, I'll add in my images as well. And you go ahead and you're doing that through every single topic that you have until you've got basically all of these things figured out. So you've got this subtopic, you've got if I go here, sorry, I'm just bouncing back. I've got the subtopic number 1, everything filled out for that. I go double check, I go back here, knowledge check, I go to check for that knowledge check, and I have the knowledge check. And then I double check there, and there is no need for supplementary, so I can move on to my UDL. And then I build my UDL, and from there I just do the same thing going through here. The only difference being, let's take a look at UDL. UDL, I fill out my topic information much like I did with this. Knowledge check, the only difference with the knowledge check is if I go to here, for my UDL one, because I said I wanted a cluster, I'm going to create 3 questions. I'm just going to put the 3 questions right here and the question types. So it's all laid out for me. So what will happen is after I've designed and I've created this storyboard, I can pass the storyboard off to the developers and they can take all this information and they can go ahead and input it into the Moodle lesson. So what we're going to do in the next video is I'm going to take a completed Sarah's document, which is what this is. I'm going to input all the information, which I've already started to do for my storyboard in this video. And then we're going to start building our Moodle lesson activity in the Moodle lesson itself.